All right, this is Scott Pekarik with the Real Estate World Podcast, reporting live here from lovely flyover country in Minnetonka, Minnesota. I'm telling you today, I'm fired up. Like I haven't been in a long time. I feel like the hypertension has been rising as the week has gone on, and the pot may boileth over today. And when I made the decision to let you inside of the belly of the beast, I really didn't know where this was going to go. I thought, well, maybe this was a passing fancy by old Scott, and I was going to get tired of it after a few days and go back to my old unpredictable pattern of launching a podcast whenever I felt like it. And this would be over quickly and we'd never speak of it again. But, you know, I've been pretty dedicated to this. I don't believe I've missed a weekday. Now, one thing that I have focused on this week is a focus on the rant. All right. I have largely avoided having guests on the show. And that's been intentional. I really felt like this is the week where I was going to come unhinged. Not as bad as my brother Jesse in Phoenix. That guy needs help, and I think I'm tentatively scheduled to visit him at the end of May, and I think I will bring help with him. But today, I'm joking, of course. I did in fact watch the final Netflix, the epilogue, if you will, of the Tiger King Joe Exotic special last night. Was able to wrap that up with a nice bow. It was actually mildly entertaining. Apparently there's a TMZ special as well, which I have not had the luxury of watching yet. But the Tiger King, it's gratuitous filth. For those of you who are looking to binge on something that will likely leave you wanting for a shower after watching, the Tiger King definitely fits, it fits the profile. The other show I'm watching is Bloodline, which is quite good, and I recommend it so far. I think we're on episode 6. We try to get in one episode an evening of something. I was on Schitt's Creek for a while, and before that was a show. I think it was 7 parts. Godless, also a Netflix. I believe Netflix, or was that Amazon Prime? I don't remember. Godless, really good if you like the westerns with a lot of shooting and some rather disturbing moments, I'll add, and not for the faint of heart. So anyway, today there's a lot to cover. Today is the news today has been fast and furious, and I want to start with a couple of the, what's the word, stimulus type bill. The CARES Act, I guess, was the big one, the granddaddy of them all. The CARES Act had relief for employees and employers, as well as entire industries, including, of course, the airlines, who are on their 47th bailout. No, just kidding. The airlines have been bludgeoned by this pandemic, as have many people and many industries. In fact, I'm going to drill down a little bit today, because I think there's reasons to be concerned, and I don't mean scared, because I'm not a purveyor of fear on this show. As you longtime listeners of the show know, that if we are nothing else, we are a show with courage and a show that promotes courage. We're not afraid of controversy, and we're not afraid of taking positions, of course, but we abhor those who are trying to stoke fear in the hearts and minds of the masses here. We don't advocate for that. So, but we do want to be aware of our surroundings. And I will tell you one thing that happened today is the Paycheck Protection Plan, the PPP, one of the darlings of the CARES Act, ran out of money, and they are no longer taking additional loans. So be aware of that. For those of you that haven't got your paperwork in, there's alleged to be another allocation of $250 billion that is being held up right now in Congress. So I'm not going to try to convince you of a worldview, but I will advise that if you are a small business owner, including a sole proprietor, who is in desperate need of funds to keep yourself above water, that you look into the Paycheck Protection Plan administered by SBA lenders and figure out what options or what's holding it up, and then make sure you get in touch with your congressperson, whoever that may be, wherever you're listening to this, provided that you're listening to it in the United States of America. I do know we have a little bit of a international reach with the show, and that was expanded a bit when we were live streaming on my YouTube channel, the Tumor Tales YouTube channel. A Tumor Tales is a channel I started because of my brain tumor, and we talk about a lot of health things, particularly mental health as of late, because fear is a powerful weapon that can be used to bludgeon the good people of planet Earth. And we are I'm really anti the fear mongering that's going on. And I know I think it was Napoleon Bonaparte, the 5'1" leader of France, who made famous the statement, "There are two levers to move men, fear and greed." And I suppose that could be applied to women as well. And I'm not a proponent of that mindset. And I think that many in our media right now, many unethical marketers are using fear as a way to scare people into purchasing product. Definitely seeing that fear mongering as the soup du jour on many of the networks and so-called news channels right now, and I'm not a fan. So anyway, so the Paycheck Protection Plan, it is out of money. I feel compelled to tell people that, not because I want to scare anyone, simply because it's factual. The EIDL loans, which we've talked about, I compared those loans to the Easter Bunny in the sense that they really seem awesome and like a really good idea, but like the Easter Bunny, they didn't truly exist on planet Earth and existed only in the imaginations of some bureaucrats at the Small Business Administration and perhaps in Congress. And so far, it seems that my prediction there is coming to pass. I don't know anyone who has received an EIDL loan. It's possible someone has, but my sources, they are not anonymous. My sources, who I will not reveal, have told me that they believe the EIDL loan is not going to happen. What that, or EIDL, was the emergency disaster loan advance. When I'm talking about the EIDL, that was the monies, the $10,000 that was alleged to be available for small business owners as an emergency funding to keep operations going. That was a quote unquote, air quotes, folks, loan that was fully forgivable even if you didn't qualify for the loan, or an advance that was fully forgivable. So it was basically a grant that was then changed to a maximum of $1,000 per employee. The problem with that program, I believe only $10 billion was allocated for it. And when you think, well, $10 billion is a lot of money. It is. It's a lot of money, specifically, particularly for one person, but when you take 10 billion and divide by 30 million, you come up with a very small number. So from what I'm hearing, that's kind of just not going to happen. And people are encouraged to apply for the Paycheck Protection Program, which is out of money now. There's a belief that there will be more money in the future, and hopefully the near future. So keep that in mind, folks. Reporting on that only because it's important. Other news, there's so much bad news, but I feel like we got to get it off the plate so we can. It's not good or bad. I think that's the lesson here is that it's just news, and it's we as human beings, we're the ones who decide to attach the emotion of good or bad to news. From Inman News, Inman's reporting that Remax expands broker fee deferrals, enacts hiring freezes. Open Door lays off 35% of its staff. If you know, Open Door was a company that was basically an iBuyer. They were buying homes, and cash buyer who would go in. They'd give an offer. Then the offer would include a 6% fee to Open Door, and then they would they would buy the property after. Well, let me back up. They'd make an offer, basically sight unseen, based on information you input to their website. They had a 6% fee, and then they would do an inspection of the property, and then you would get the real offer. So basically, they were many times the original offer was a placeholder. A letter of intent is really all it basically was. And then they'd inspect the property and give you their real offer. Sometimes it would be very close or similar or exactly what the first offer was. Many times it would be much lower. So they are laying off people. They've apparently suspended their iBuyer program. Zillow has also suspended their iBuyer program. And, there's lots of interesting news in real estate right now, really related to the fact that so many sellers are deciding not to put their properties on the market right now. There is still buyer demand. There was, as I've reported, a adjustment to lending standards for FHA, DVA, and USDA loans. Basically, the minimum credit score was jacked up, and many of the down payment assistance programs are gone now. So people who maybe had a little credit challenge were knocked out of the market. However, the numbers of sellers has also, I think, even more so dropped out than the number of buyers. So our supply demand our supply demand curve is in balance right now, really, and I think it still favors the sellers. So we're not seeing much in the way of any price adjustments. And for the people that say, "Hey, this is going to be like 2008," it's not like 2008. It's so not like 2008. I was here in 2008. I was also here in 2001. All right. I was here a lot earlier than that because I'm old. I know I look young and handsome, but for those of you not watching me on Facebook now, I will tell you I'm a handsome devil. Now, the issue is that in 2008 we had underlying fundamentals that were so distorted and so abused, right? We had, basically, if you had a pulse, you could basically go buy like 10 houses and nobody checked anything. It was pandemonium. It was mass hysteria, cats and dogs living together, to the point where we had inflated this real estate markets and overbuilt so much. I remember we had 35,000 units on the market here in the Twin Cities. Today, I think that number is closer to 8,000 or 9,000. So that just gives you some perspective on how we overbuilt. There was price inflation everywhere because anybody could buy multiple properties with no money out of pocket. The fundamentals of lending have changed fairly significantly. Now, again, we're going to talk a little bit about Minnesota. Minnesota has 20% unemployment based on reports that I saw today in the one of the local papers. And oh no! And now now I've got something going on in the background here. I think it's it's the governor of Michigan talking. How did she get on my feed? Anyway, so Minnesota has what I believe it was the Pioneer Press or somebody reported today that we're looking at 20% unemployment statewide. So there is a huge debate raging right now as to what is the appropriate time to loosen the stay-at-home orders and the restrictions on basically people getting back to work. There are, in breaking news, the governor, in a courageous act, decided to allow people to get roadies in Minnesota. You can now pick up booze from restaurants. Sorry, I do not have a vendetta against alcohol. It's just funny to me, and I get it. Hey, I am a fan of the restaurants. All right, I'm a fan of the bars and restaurants. I tell you what, I worked in that industry for over 7 years through college. Yeah, it took me 7 years to get an undergraduate. Tells you what a thought leader I am. But the reality is that for many of the restaurants, their business model is set up in a way that if they can't sell the alcohol, they're not going to be profitable. You think about when you're buying that $7 pint of beer, that whatever it is, whether it's one of your quintuple IPA, molasses brewed, yumminess, or it's Coors Light or PBR. The markup on alcohol is astronomical compared to what the markup on food is, and it's far easier to serve. Right, you don't have the overhead for serving alcohol, and for many of the restaurants that are doing takeout, it's going to help. It will help. It's just not going to. It's not going to save the ones that are on the ropes right now. It's not. And the problem is that you have certain restaurants have business models that don't work with a takeout model. All right. And there's people that are trying to adapt to it, and God bless them. I want every one of these restaurant owners to come out of the pandemic and thrive. But here's the problem. Even when we open up and say, I mean, the latest I've heard is that, Minnesota has a stay-at-home order right now. And this is supposed to go till May 4th. Now, I would be willing to bet a fair amount of money. I let's just say $1. Okay, I have $1 here, $1. I'd be willing to bet $1 US, and it's not illegal. Okay, so it's a hypothetical bet that stay-at-home order goes beyond May 4th in Minnesota, and there is a debate raging about this. But let me finish up with the restaurants and bars. So the restaurants and bars, say the order ends May 4th and you can go to the bar. I guarantee there'll be seating restrictions. I guarantee there'll be social distancing requirements. So then what? So then a restaurant that can, and I've talked about this, but a restaurant that can have 100 people can now maybe only, because these tables and restaurants are stacked on top of each other, right? Trying to take advantage of every square inch possible to be able to turn a profit. But say you can have 30 seats instead of 100. Well, that's simply not going to work in most cases. That's not going to allow this restaurant to be profitable unless they can get massive concessions in their rent. They can get, I don't know, maybe labor concessions. I don't know. Every restaurant's different, but I'm pretty sure that that's going to be the next challenge people have to go through. Now, the governor of Minnesota, the Honorable Tim Walz, has apparently made a deal, a regional deal. And this is kind of an odd way to describe this. The deal he made on COVID recovery is to he wants to collaborate regionally. However, the states that are closest to Minnesota are, and Canada is not a state. Sorry, Canada. You don't get to be our 51st state. Ha ha. But North Dakota, South Dakota, Iowa, and Wisconsin. That's basically the states that ring Minnesota. Of the 4 states, only Wisconsin is included in the regional plan to reopen the economy. Now, why might that be? Oh, North Dakota, South Dakota, and Iowa didn't close. So the regional plan includes Michigan, which is seeing some real exciting action right now based on the more draconian stay-at-home orders that we see there. Ohio, Wisconsin, Illinois, and Indiana, and Kentucky. I haven't looked at a map lately, but isn't Kentucky? And I'm gonna pull up a map. United States map. Kentucky doesn't seem to be a Midwestern state. Is it? Is it generally considered to be in the Midwest? Am I crazy? I've never in any talk of, oh wow, this is way harder to get a map to come up here than I thought. I see maps. You have to go under maps, Scott. Yeah, Kentucky is, I would call that southeast if it were me. But anyway, I guess Kentucky is now in the Midwest and I'm wrong. So anyway, so Kentucky, Indiana, Illinois, Wisconsin, Ohio, Michigan. So that's the new Midwest. And that is the regional group that is going to reopen. Now, when is it going to reopen? We have yet to see. I am a skeptic, not negative, just a skeptic that this is going to happen May 4th. It's interesting. Another concern I know that's top of mind for many of these states, particularly the ones with the more, let's just say we're going to go with bloated budgets. Maybe what's the politically correct term for budgets that maybe aren't efficient? How about that? Inefficient, people are no. They'll say we are planning for a rainy day. People whose budgets are I'm going to go bloated. Bloated budgets are going to be facing something of great concern, I'm sure, and that is the tax revenue is definitely going to be affected. And many of these states, if not all of them, gasoline taxes. You have to drive around right now. I don't care where you are. There's not as many cars on the road. Property taxes. Many of these large retail commercial property owners are getting absolutely massacred right now because they have tenants who aren't bringing any revenue and therefore cannot pay rent. And I know that for many of them, they have deep pockets, but when you have several properties where people aren't paying your rent, you're going to have a hard time paying your property taxes. And many of these commercial properties have leases set up as such that it's called a triple net lease, where their tenants are responsible for a percentage, in some cases, maybe a significant percentage of the property tax payment. So if these tenants aren't bringing in revenue, odds are they're probably not going to be too worried about property taxes. So there's going to be a hit there. Sales tax. Think about all of the taxes on food and beverage sales in restaurants, particularly in larger cities. If you have all the majority of your restaurants closed down, the liquor sales get huge taxes, huge tax revenue on liquor sales. What's going to happen there? Okay. And going on and on and on and on. Income taxes are collected at the state. Well, what happens when 20% of your workforce is laid off? I do believe in Minnesota unemployment benefits are taxed. I've never got an unemployment check. I know this sounds weird, but I've always had a job. I've either been self-employed or I've always had work, and that goes back to when I was like 4 years old on the farm. And I know that seems crazy, but I have never not had, I think there was like maybe 2 weeks in college where I didn't have gainful employment, but I always had a job throughout my long college career, and many times had 2 jobs, which was stupid because then I just didn't do my homework and still found time to drink. Smart. Anyway, so there's some big concerns there for the local, state, and municipalities, because unlike the federal government, the states, cities, and counties do not have license to create money. So there's going to be a problem there, and it'll be interesting to see how this all unfolds. And I'm wondering, yeah, we'll just see. I've got some opinions, maybe not today. Today we're keeping it positive. I am fired up today, but it's not a negative fired up. It's a positive one. So what else is going on? The city of Minneapolis and St. Paul, the city council, or many of the council members sent a letter to the governor saying how they should cancel rent payments. And I'm summarizing a bit here, but that's the essence of the letter. Just make it illegal. Make it unnecessary to pay rent. Now, I've heard of some ridiculous ideas in my life. And in fact, I've come up with some very ridiculous ideas. But to simply say, don't pay rent and then not pay mortgages, I didn't see any mention there not to pay your taxes, your property taxes. But I don't understand how that helps. Like, if you have some, like right now, and I've been a huge tenants advocate to help tenants find resources in the pandemic, in the face of job loss, anything from unemployment. I went and tried to fill out the form, myself, with no intention to submit it for myself, but so I could understand it. Okay. We looked, got the contact info for SNAP, food stamps, all the counties in our metro area. We got the websites and phone numbers so people could get emergency assistance if they needed it. Their, information on the federal unemployment benefits. You get $600 a week from the federal unemployment, $600 a week, plus whatever you get from the state, which basically is half of what you were earning, up to $730 a week. So in theory, you could get up to $1,300 a week in unemployment benefits. And again, I've said this repeatedly. I know most people don't want to be unemployed, but I also know people who do want to be unemployed and would prefer to just stay home and get that check. And that's what they're doing right now. And what does that mean? Well, presumably that plus the $1,200 in stimulus money should allow you to pay your rent. And I think that's a very, very, very good trade-off. Hey, you're going to get some free money from the government until things get back to normal, or as close to normal as we can get them. And in exchange, pay your rent. But then you've got Minneapolis, who, I don't know what these people are thinking. I don't know what world they live in. I am someone who has always had a job my entire life. I remember growing up impoverished on the farm, and I'm not joking when I say impoverished. And again, cue the violins for Scot. But I learned a few lessons going through that experience. We worked our asses off, never had any money. And I swore when I got off the farm, I was never going to stop working. I never did, to my detriment at times. Again, as I've said, I've got a brain tumor. I've not missed a day of work. Maybe I should. I won't do it though. It's not who I am. So to just simply say not paying rent is a solution, when there's all kinds of other options out there still. Like 6 months from now, if we don't have the state opened up and we've decided to just quit, then I guess we burn it all down. I don't know. But I don't understand. I don't understand that mindset that you're taking a perceived disadvantaged person, and to make it better, you go and you basically bludgeon someone else and hurt them because you've decided that this person's problems are more important than the other. Why don't we have an environment where we work towards the greater good for all? Like, I'm admitted I'm probably more libertarian, and I do like capitalism, guilty. All right. But I also like helping people. I also, we have a social safety net. Why do we have it? Well, it's to help people. Have I given people money? Yep, I have recently in the last 48 hours out of my pocket. Is my business suffered from this pandemic? Yes, it has. A lot. The sales are down. We've got people who are working in real estate, but the reality of the situation is the number of transactions has dropped. There's a lot of people making the decision not to engage in a real estate transaction right now, which I respect. But does it mean that as a company, like our revenues are going to be impacted? Yeah, absolutely. Doesn't mean I don't want to help people. It doesn't mean I stopped. But it also, I don't understand the mentality. And again, I've said it before, but I'm a landlord and a business owner. I don't expect anybody to feel sorry for me. Basically, when you go into business for yourself and you own rental property, it's not there's not a document that you sign that says, hey, you understand that no one will ever feel sorry for you, but it's implied. All right. So I'm not looking for pity, but I will say that I don't understand the mindset where in order to perceived to be helping someone, you have to go hurt someone else. Doesn't make any sense to me. I hope it never does. So with that, what else is going on? Well, I'm glad you asked, Scott. You sexy man, you. So I read yesterday that, read or heard that the company Walt Disney is losing $30 million a day. $30 million a day. That is an astronomical sum of money. And I don't know how they're going to get it back. I think the conglomerate that is Walt Disney is owned. Does Disney own ESPN, or how does that work? Let's see here. We are going to look that up. And gosh, I'm going to try to see if I can see the comments here. Sorry, I get a little myopic at times because, I'm a narcissist and I just stare at the picture of myself while I'm doing that. No, just kidding. So yeah, Chad, I am unemployable. And yes, Corey, I am running for Congress. Probably never. So yeah, Walt Disney, $30 million a day. Okay. So what companies does Disney own? ABC, ESPN, Touchstone Pictures, Marvel. Well, Marvel's probably doing okay yet, but Lucasfilm, Star Wars, History Channel. But yeah, that's the problem. Like you're not making any movies right now, right? And you're not releasing anything to theaters right now. Yeah, what's going to happen to movie theaters? Holy crap! Yeah, this is bizarro world. I don't understand what's going to happen with movie theaters when we get out of this. But we got to get some facts on this COVID-19, and we got to figure a way out of this because these are all things I like to do. I like to go to a baseball game like one a year, but I like to go to them. There's not going to be baseball. Let's see, you can't go to like Big Thrill Factory with the kids or Dave and Buster's or movies. Man, these are all things I love to do. Okay, so here's the thing. In Minnesota, we were told that, the curve, we wanted to flatten the curve. And in the governor's model, again, I have to ask this question, like, who's doing these models? Because they're all wrong. Like, they're all wrong. And they're all, like, very wrong. Like, the original models came out, and I understand we're getting new data, but I hope you're not paying these people too much because you're making decisions based on the models, and the decisions are made that are using some more draconian measures to stop the spread of this. But then the modelers come out with a new model 2 weeks later that basically, I think we started out at 2 million dead to 200,000. Now we're down to like 60,000 or 80,000. And I'm not downplaying the significance of the tragedy here. I'm not. I'm just saying like what what's the methodology? Why is this not published? Because people are trying to make decisions based on this. And I think the people who are actually doing a good job of predicting the impact of this should be rewarded, and not, and the people that suck shouldn't. Anyway, so, yeah, Disney losing 30 million a day, tax revenue we talked about. And then, in general, yeah, the CARES Act, we went through that. That is a mess right now. The Paycheck Protection Program for the people who haven't gotten the money yet. There has been just a tremendous demand for that. So again, if you haven't received the money, and you believe you are eligible, you need to get in hold of your congressman and make sure they're not using any nonsense to tie this up, right? Just, hey, we want the money. We want to save small businesses. We save small businesses means we save jobs. We save jobs. That means people can work. That means people can get paid and they can buy stuff. And if you're not in favor of that, then, move to, I don't know where you can move if you're not in favor of people like living. Anyway, so, gosh, deep breath. So with that, I think I've covered most everything I need to today. My heart goes out to anyone who did apply to, for the Paycheck Protection Program. Small business owners out there who are struggling, who are wondering when the state's going to be opened up. I'm with you. Those of you who've been unemployed or don't know if your jobs are coming back, my heart's out to you as well. So with that, I'm going to sign off. I was going to be home 2 hours ago, which again, further evidence that I'm a horrible father and terrible husband. But I wish everyone the best wishes today. Go out there, kick some ass, and we'll see you tomorrow. Boom. I'm out of here.